plants, the green frontier. These are the discussions of the podcast Horticult. Its continuing mission to talk about strange new cultivars, to seek out new flowers and plant them, to boldly garden like no one has before. What's up, everybody? This is Blaine from the Horticult. What's happening? On today's episode, we have KUED's Modern Gardener. These are an online video series of the PBS station here in Salt Lake, and you can find their content on YouTube, KUED/Modern Gardener, PBS app. You can also find the videos. They're on Instagram, they're on Facebook. It was great to have them. These are the producers, the hosts, everything for the production of this online video series. So we are very fortunate to have them. Enjoy. Let's get it on. So I'm Blaine.
And I am B-Rad.
And we are the Horticult. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Today's episode, we are sitting with the hosts of Modern Gardener. Hosts, producers, everything. Editors?
Editors.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything.
Okay, so people who don't know, what's Modern Gardener?
It became an idea that we tossed around at the station for a little while. I should probably start off by saying we are affiliated with KUED Channel 7, which is the PBS station in Salt Lake City. We broadcast to all of Utah and parts of Wyoming and whatnot. Anyway, we were kind of like searching around for different kind of content ideas and whatnot. We started looking at, what our viewership is interested in and what we're interested in as well. And we kind of fell upon, the idea of doing a gardening and landscaping show. There's not really any big players I don't want to consider us big players necessarily, but in the media market who are doing like consistent, what we hope is high quality content in this specific sphere. And within Utah, gardening and outdoors work and all this sort of thing is like one of the main things that people are into. We've got a really unique environment here. We figured we could combine those things and serve the people of Utah by talking about the uniqueness of our area, the fact that we've got within a 10-mile radius of downtown Salt Lake, you've got multiple different climate zones and all these different things. You've got all of the different soil qualities that you'll run into up on the benches versus the valleys versus in Park City and whatnot. We just thought that it would be a good place to start to try to explore those things and then also learn a lot about it for ourselves as well. I mean, we're interested in this. This is something that, we're all passionate about and we're excited about. And that was sort of the origin story of the Modern Gardener.
2 years ago, Mark? Or when did it start?
We talked about it at least 3 years ago, and then we kind of kicked it around, and we had a thing where we brought in a bunch of partners to talk about it. And even after that, like we didn't have the structure in the department and in the place to really kind of like start it at that moment. So it's been 2 years that we've actually been working on it, but we've been thinking about this for longer than that even.
And then in comes Lizzie. She really took it and ran.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of didn't have any other assignments. And it was kind of like given to me to be the lead producer on it because Mark is our webmaster.
Yeah,
I mean, he's in charge of
the station,
KUED's like website. So
yeah.
That doesn't give him a lot of free time to be like a video producer. But I was pulled into the department and it was given to me, and so I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just started working with everybody to start to make gardening videos. And so that's kind of the story of Modern Gardener.
So it's only on YouTube and on your guys' website?
Yeah, it's an online series.
It's an online series.
Yeah.
I was so thrilled when I got a response. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I watched your videos and there's people that we know that we've had on the podcast. And I was like, this is awesome. Mm-hmm. And then we have this kind of Utah. I mean, I was a landscape gardener at the U for 2 years. And we were just talking about before how Cynthia B, she was just on our podcast.
Yeah.
I love that garlic video.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me want to get garlic.
Yeah.
We've got 2 garlic videos.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, like, which garlic?
Oh, I watched the one where the lady was showing. Is it
Jess Kemper?
Yeah.
Up at Edible Campus Gardens.
Yeah. So what was the other garlic one? I missed one?
Sandhill?
Yeah, Sandhill Farms up in Eden, Utah.
Oh.
Wait, that might not be a video. I'm
Yeah, I was
sorry.
gonna
I
say,
think
I
it
don't
was
think-
just a blog post.
But
I
Sometimes
take
you
that back.
guys post out your popular ones more than once, at least on YouTube. I thought I saw.
Yeah, we definitely resurface content whenever we can because it takes a lot of work to make what we need to make with the amount of like resources that we have. So we're excited that we're in year 2 now and we can start to bring back some of our older content as like the gardening season progresses, because that helps us have more time to work on new things.
It's nearly impossible to sit down with any expert in any of these fields and not have a 45 to an hour long interview.
Yeah.
And try to cut that down into like a 3 or 4 minute piece is really challenging.
Yeah.
And, we've kind of decided that in some cases, like, that's not doing a service to the topic or to the content itself. So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work to make the videos. I don't know, just to edit the best parts down is a lot of work.
It's like, we always joke it's like cutting off an arm or leg, or like choosing between your children, because like, especially I know with like the garden planning video that we had with Fred Montag that came out, that I know was especially difficult for Elenia, the one who edited that one, because these gardeners and people that are working for these organizations just have so much knowledge that they've accrued over their lifetime that it feels really hard to get that content ready for social media, where everything needs to be like, a little bit easier to take in and punchy.
Give us a lifetime of learning in a half an hour. And
right.
Then
And
we'll try to like get it
compress
even
that even
that.
further.
Yeah.
It's difficult to do. So we try to create different types of content. So not just videos. We have blog posts and then we're on Instagram and Facebook too. So sometimes it's just like a photo with an interesting bit of information, or just like gardening information, but then also information about other gardening organizations that you can get in touch with. And, you were talking about Cynthia. I mean, the more I've worked on Modern Gardener, the more and more I've seen what a tightly knit community gardeners are in Utah. I mean, everybody knows each other, and it's really cool to see that community. And I think that's why we really
People
love
are
Modern
passionate
Gardener.
about it,
Oh,
yeah.
for sure. So,
Well, let's get to know you guys a little bit. So we'll start with Mark. Where are you from? Are you from Utah?
I'm actually from Utah County, where we're at. So,
Oh,
yeah.
no way. right over here.
Yeah, from Provo originally. Although I've lived in Salt Lake for about 15 years or something like that. And like we mentioned earlier, I'm the software developer, web developer at the TV station. So that's where I spend most of my time. And when I'm able, I'll try to like work on any kind of like Modern Gardener content or anything like that. That's in a nutshell
Yeah, cool.
where I come from.
I'm Lizzie Brousseau. I'm from Davis County and have lived in Salt Lake for about 15 years as well. And worked at KUED doing like secretary work, but had a degree in communication and doc studies, and definitely wanted to be producing things and was very vocal about that. And so they took a chance on me and moved me into the new digital media department. So the content that we create in digital media doesn't go on air generally, even though we work at a TV station. So it's pretty much all for the web.
And I'm Ashley Swansong, and I grew up in Carbon County, actually, but I've been living in Salt Lake for like 20 years. I'm a digital producer at KUED, and I help out with Modern Gardener.
Cool. So, like when you responded and you said none of you gardened, or you would be like
Well,
novice,
I'm the one that
You're
doesn't
the-
garden. These two do.
do all the other stuff.
Well, I have a community garden plot. That's my...
You had a video on it.
Yeah.
Yep. Uh-huh.
No, you're a great gardener. Like I eat the stuff from her garden all the time. She's a gardener.
And Lizzie just got a community garden plot with Wasatch Community Gardens.
Yeah.
See, I'm a stinker because I'm a flower gardener, not a
Okay.
vegetable gardener.
Okay.
Like, I don't know how to take care of vegetables.
Yeah. Okay.
See,
I mean,
my interest is in landscaping as well.
yeah.
And
See.
Yeah.
And that's my degree. So I have a degree from Utah State, landscape design and construction. So residential, only residential.
Oh,
so I can't like plan a whole city and know the grade of how everything's supposed to be. What you got?
What do I do?
Yeah.
Greenhouse. I'm a greenhouse grower.
Greenhouse guy.
With background experience as far as landscaping and whatnot. So
Cool.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
What is Olson's the biggest greenhouse producer in Utah? Do you think?
Yeah, I would the largest.
The largest for sure.
Of flowers or produce or both?
Flowers.
Flowers, gotcha.
Yeah. So we do grow some vegetables, peppers and tomatoes and things like that. But and then we disseminate that plant material out through the Intermountain West. So from Arizona to Montana and everywhere, like Colorado and Nevada. It's a pretty big market.
Big.
Yeah, that's a really big market.
Yeah.
Commercial greenhouse works.
It's pretty
Okay,
intense.
Olson.
Yeah.
It's freaking automated. Everything is automated.
Oh,
how they
interesting.
pull the plugs out and put them into the
Well,
bigger.
that's good to know.
We will
That might be a cool
chatting.
modern gardener.
Yeah,
The majority,
that would be
For
a
sure.
the majority of it is your planters and baskets and things and
Oh,
combinations and things like that. So
Okay, cool.
yeah,
That's really interesting.
Where are those located? They must be huge.
the greenhouses. There's different ranges, and so we have a large range down in Santaquin, and then one in Salem, which is where I'm located. One in Idaho, Boise, and then there are 2 ranges in Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it year round that you guys are able to grow in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what they call? Sorry, might be off topic, but I'm just curious. Is that what a hothouse is?
Hothouse would be more like a what we call them Quonset houses, but they're houses that are covered with plastic. Some have heaters, some don't. Yeah, hothouse might be the term because they do ramp up in temperature quite warm in the daytime, and then they just make it at nighttime. They just take the frost away, like they prevent the crop from getting frost damage.
Okay.
I had some questions, just some things to get things going. Where do you guys come up with the ideas for your videos? A contact that you make? Someone else told you about somebody else? Is it?
I mean, it's kind of all of those things. It's everything you could think of. We kind of talk about it in our meetings, different ideas that we have.
We use Teams and we have a idea list on Teams.
Yeah.
Microsoft Teams.
I think
Is it like word of mouth? How you find people?
That's
in
part of
this
it, yeah.
industry?
Like, I mean, for example, we did a story. One of the very first ones that we put together was about a man up in who lives up in Olympus Cove in Salt Lake City, and he's converted his entire yard over to growing hosta plants. I don't know if you've heard.
that,
Is
like,
it- is it
shade
the-
on shade on shade.
Is it the Hosta House guy?
Yeah,
Yeah, Hosta House.
Yeah,
I have a story about him, but go ahead.
and it's a very unique experience just to go to his place and take a look at it and see somebody who came up with this idea and this plan and this dream even when he was a little kid and worked
Very
towards
passionate.
it, and super passionate about it. And he's built this just beautiful, amazing place that's just so interesting. And go to his house and dig up some of his plants and give him some money and take him home. It's just it's really cool to me. I love that sort of thing.
Well, and I think with a thing like Hosta House, we were thinking too, like what would our audience be interested in? Because one reason why Modern Gardener is such a great project to work on is because there's endless amounts of content that we could make. And so I think kind of zeroing in on what we know people in the gardening community in Utah would really like to know about kind of helps. And, finding out about somebody in Utah who's converted their entire property into growing hostas could be very interesting to a lot of people for sure. So.
Absolutely. And another way that we look for content is there are kind of digital tools that you can use as well, where you're looking at what people on Google are searching for in our area when it comes to landscaping or gardening or whatever, and that's a really easy way to generate a list of here are the 10 things that clearly people are interested in.
Is that where
that's what we're
tomatoes
looking
comes
for.
from?
Tomatoes and trees.
We have
Yeah.
this joke that we need to just only make videos about trees and tomatoes because those are the highest searched
Yeah. That's all
things in our
anybody
area.
looks
Yeah.
Well, Mike Karen, he was one of my professors. Now he's the Thanksgiving Point. He's the extension officer
That's it,
at
yeah.
Thanksgiving Point. And he had this presentation at the UNLA one time about greenhouses and how everyone wants to have tomatoes year round in a greenhouse.
Yeah.
And he's just like, that tomato would cost like $6 because all the cost of
Right.
the house and heating it and
Right.
keeping
Yeah.
it alive and nutrient.
Uh-huh.
He's like, it's just not feasible, but everyone talks about it and everybody wants it, and he's straight up with his opinions on stuff. So
Yeah.
he would be a great guest because he would offend half of everybody.
He knows.
So.
Yeah, he knows for sure.
But the Hosta House guy, I actually have him written down because I watched that video because it's so short. I'm like, I'm sure he was like you were there a long time and you made like a 5-minute video.
It was a long conversation.
Yeah, you
He's
took
got a
out the
lot to
best
say.
parts. Yeah.
He's got like a pretty good idea about a plan about some urban development to bring in like more shaded areas, and especially for like
and he-
homeless
and he
people or
wants to,
something.
like, use
So I
that
think
to kind of like help homeless folks and whatnot. I mean, his
so
heart's
he's got
definitely
a
good.
rigorous plan.
Well, that
Yeah.
to me seems very much in line with like a lot of people that are really passionate about gardening. You know,
Yeah.
that they're thinking about it. Like you know,
As a
the
big
interview
larger
with Fred
sense, absolutely.
Montag. I mean, yeah, they're definitely thinking about things on like a very large scale of how it can help society, how it can help the environment,
And they see how it's helped them personally, you know,
Right.
overcome different things, and you know, whether it's you know, dealing with some difficulty in their life, or you know, just finding
pure joy
Yeah, the
Right.
pure joy of the experience of doing this.
of a beautiful garden or
Well, they're,
successful tomato
you know,
plant.
Yeah,
kind
and
of
that's
cool
so
stories
inspiring.
to share.
Well,
Definitely.
that's kind of with community gardens. You're involved, Ashley, with that.
Wasatch Community Gardens.
Yeah. Like how? Tell us how that helps benefit the.
It's nice. Actually, like, sorry, this is kind of a negative part, but I feel like what happens a lot with gardeners is it's so fun to plant things, and you've got these beautiful tomatoes, but you have 7 tomato plants. Or like we have a joke that's like, no, there should be one person who plants zucchini in the entire state and just shares it with everyone. Because I think what commonly happens with vegetable gardens growers is they grow a bunch and then they actually don't eat it.
Right. Yeah.
So
It happens.
we
or they
find
get
that-
like overwhelmed.
yeah, they get overwhelmed. So we find that kind of happening at our community garden. So we've got this like box out front of just like free, take it. So important part about me personally as a gardener is like, if you're going to grow it, eat it.
And someone shared this video of this lady, and she started a nonprofit on food shares. Like I seen that you had done done that before.
For sure.
But this you might have even done with this lady. She's in Salt Lake, and she was like, I wanted my kids to do it as a service project, and no one ever wanted to do it. And then someone was like, why don't you do it? And she went back to got her master's degree, so she did it as one of her like master's degree projects or something.
Cool.
And so she started, and she runs it now. And it's been, I think she said, the website was like 2016 is when she started it. And so she takes this produce that people are willing to give because they don't want it to go to waste.
Right.
And like you're saying, plant one zucchini plant, you got like 100. How you gotta make that much bread? You know?
I know.
So they take it, and she gives it to. She has this network where they get it from all around the county, and she takes it to
Oh, interesting.
needy families, or like she has this all set up.
Wow.
So she I think she said the first year she did it, she got like 7,000 pounds. And then this last year was like 40,000 pounds or something
Holy
like that of
cow.
food.
That's cool.
That's
And-
a ton of work.
Yeah. I think she has people helping her now.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's it based out of?
It's Salt Lake.
Oh, okay.
I can find it. I'll find it for you.
Cool.
Yeah,
if you
that'd be
know her.
cool.
And maybe you even talk to her.
No, I think we did the fruit share with Green Urban Lunchbox, and then the other one that we did was with Rose Park Crop Swap. And kind of a similar idea, like everybody in the neighborhood comes together once a week, and they, like during the summer season when they've got produce coming, and they just bring their extra. And then people who don't, then it's an opportunity for people who aren't so great at growing tomatoes and don't want to put the work into it to get some locally grown tomatoes, and they can bring their, like, you know, squash or peppers or whatever. There's a lot of really cool programs out there, and those are definitely things that we like to share on Modern Gardener for sure. Yeah, find out who she is.
I know her first name was Pat.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay.
But I'll find out. She has a website, so she's active.
Now on the Modern Gardener, like, are they 5-minute videos? Are they 30 minutes?
I mean,
I think our longest is like 12 minutes or something,
okay.
like right in that range.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a decision we made, where you do have a topic that you could go on and on and on and on about.
Yeah.
Or it's like, we believe that people who are very interested in this will be willing to sit through a 12-minute video,
Oh,
and
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think that's asking
Especially
a lot,
on
really.
YouTube.
Especially on YouTube,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, condense
Yeah.
down the information and
Yeah.
So we don't have any hard and fast rules. It's whatever it needs to be typically.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can, err on the side of brevity, that's the way we tend to go typically if we can. But if it's 12 minutes, it's 12 minutes, and that's
Yeah.
how much information they needed to get out there. But it's good stuff because we've tried to really kind of narrow it down.
What's your ultimate goal like as far as looking forward to the future? Is it just simply to get as many people excited and passionately about gardening in Utah, or is it an Intermountain area? Or
As a TV station, our one of our missions is to educate, enlighten, and entertain people around Utah. It's a PBS mission. It's clearly something that we care a lot about as well, and that's really kind of the cornerstone. Of course, viewership is important. If we're making content and nobody looks at it, that's a little bit defeating. But at the same time, we really we want to get information out there that will be helpful, educational.
I think just kind of like in our mission statement, it said something like just about celebrating the gardening organizations and people that are really passionate about gardening and the information that people need to garden well and efficiently in Utah. So that's definitely a big part of it. But I think more and more working on Modern Gardener and seeing the community that is there among gardeners, especially on Facebook, that's something that I think a lot about with Modern Gardener is how can we help this really vibrant community that's already there, and then kind of just engage with them, and it's not like totally clear cut coming from like a perspective of creating like content, but we're always kind of looking for those opportunities. But
so we're up for suggestions.
I was going to say, so do you tend to get? I mean, you're educating. Do you tend to get feedback on how successful some people are on maybe some projects that they're?
That's a good question. I mean,
not really, not yet.
Not yet.
We're
Okay,
still
okay.
like fledgling enough that it's not. I don't know that we've done like projects that we've gotten feedback from people that this is something that they tried the way that we did it.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of like thank goodness.
We're conscious of that, though. We think a lot
Yeah,
about that in our conversations
right.
because, again, we don't consider ourselves experts on the subject matter. So we don't want to, number one, give people bad information. I mean, I guess the worst thing that would happen is they might get some dead plants. But
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully. We did the microgreen video and we were really nervous that we might be like,
Cool.
That was yours, huh?
yeah, that was Ashley's. Yeah.
a lot of baby plants died in the making of
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
video.
yeah.
And we
that
admit
was
it.
Mark's fault.
Yeah, I killed them all. It was
He
me.
killed the microgreens.
No, but it's cool when you get any kind of feedback and people are like, 2 thumbs up. I tried this at home and it worked.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
So
We don't really solicit that information, but I think as we get bigger, like that's something that like the community aspect of it is important.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
finding out if number one we're telling people relevant information, number two if it's helpful. And
We'll get questions occasionally from
Yeah.
viewers or fans.
I never expected our podcast to be educational.
well,
Well, I think it is.
like,
Like,
when
I've listened to a couple
that's
episodes.
what people
and,
say.
like,
I just wanted to get together with my friend and
Yeah.
have discussion because we'd get together and talk and like, why aren't we recording this? And we just have plant discussions. It's really weird to say that, but let's record this puppy. And then people are
Yeah.
like, I learned so much.
That's cool.
And we're
Right.
just like,
What did we say
I
that
know.
was-
What, did you
I
figure
think
that out?
like this is something that I picked up a lot from Fred Montag in his interview that we did with him, and then I like fell in love and got his book and like started just voraciously reading it, and he just kind of continues to reiterate this point that's in the video that there aren't gardening experts. There's just gardening like learners that we're always kind of learning, and being a part of the gardening groups on Facebook, like local gardening groups, I see that a lot. Like, people will post something like, oh, this plant is like not doing very well. What's wrong with it? And there's just so many different opinions. And so I think you can learn a lot from, there's so many different ways to garden, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. And so you can learn a lot from each other. You can find something that might be better than the thing you were trying before. And that's really, that's one thing where I see like social media being really great for gardening. Yeah. It saves people a lot of time probably to like see these different ways of doing things and try
and
something better.
we always want to share. We want to share with people.
Oh yeah.
What we know. And even though sometimes I see the eyes glaze over when I'm talking about soil and pH, they just lose it. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
We want to know. And that was one thing that Cynthia brought up. She was just like, they don't need to know everything. They just need to know what they need to know to make it work.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah.
We're actually getting ready to publish an episode on soil, and I had issues with that because I didn't want to go off the deep end of like, you got to know all this chemistry. But at the same time, like, I feel like if you're going to take your soil seriously and if you're going to want that content, then you do have to kind of educate yourself a little bit. You got to do your research and you got to know what.
Yeah. Ashley's first cut of the soil video, we were all commenting on this one part where she put in like all of this information about like deep end information about soil and chemistry. And my first like comment that I deleted was like, whoa, biochem class. Like, I am not like, as a like average viewer, gonna understand any of the information on this. And but Ashley did a really great job like distilling it.
And I did notice that the Utah State University usual website where they do the soil testing, they just redid their website and it's way more user friendly. So yay for the usual lab. Because before I wanted to make that point in the video and in the blog post, because I felt like when you go to the website, it was really, to get your soil tested, it was really not clear on like how to read your test, like what test asks
like,
for.
To really understand my soil seemed like really unattainable.
Yeah,
you know?
so I think they made it a lot easier now. So it's perfect timing with this
That's awesome.
video.
Yeah.
See, that was one of the fun classes I remember of when we actually got to do the test, shake the water, and see it like floating, and okay, we'll come back in like 6 days and there'll still be particles of clay floating around. Yeah. It was so cool. To go through that. So now that's why I get excited over like, oh, you got clay soil? You know how little those are?
Yeah.
You know, it's like
microscopic.
People just hate their soil. It doesn't matter what they have. They have sandy soil, they have loam soil, they have clay soil. They all hate it. But there's benefits to all of them. And it's okay. You just have to find what works.
The right
plants are
plant
so
for the right location.
adaptable.
Right.
You mean I can't have my hydrangeas in this? Whatever. Microphylla.
Not blue ones.
Yeah, the blue ones. I wanted to ask you about plant people. We kind of brought it up a little bit. Some plant people they enjoy talking to plants more than they like talking to people.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Or they don't know how to talk to people. Do you come across that a lot with these guys?
We talk a lot to people who are professors or people who are kind of like public sort of spokespeople for their organizations.
When I first started working on Modern Gardener, we had the idea to feature like just regular gardeners or like people that were just like very passionate. And I want us to do more of that, but we haven't really ended up doing a lot of that. I think too much of that. Like, I think most of the people that we've talked with are generally like, they're pretty good.
Yeah, but good to talk to. They're just hard workers. Gardeners are just hard workers, so it's hard to get them to like check your email.
Yeah, that's like
answer your phone. I know your hands are like super dirty, but
a little bit of a struggle. And we're like definitely like sympathetic, and I think at this point we're just like, man, we're just like make it work, like however we can. Yeah. But I mean, generally though, like I would much rather work with plant people than, almost any other type of person for sure.
And I feel like the community is just so friendly, like even if they're listening to something that they already know every single thing about, like if they have feedback, it's going to be typically pretty good natured, if they I'm passionate about this thing, so I'm going to listen to this, even though I know everything there is to know about this already, and I don't know if some people are even looking for a new perspective, but it's just a friendly community, which is really
definitely
great. Yeah.
Usually what happens to me is I get job envy, so we'll go interview someone somewhere and I'm like, dang, I want to work here. Like when we go to the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy, I'm like, this place is so cool.
Forget cameras. Let's work with plants instead. That's
when we went to
really
Cactus and Travels, it just smelled so good in there, and like
it was
like, dang.
wonderful. Yeah, last year I had a lot of fun doing the farmers market.
markets.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad about the farmers market content because it's kind of more like gardening adjacent. It's not like full on like, there's not a lot of gardening information, but we kind of felt like if people love gardening, then they probably would be interested in what is happening at farmers markets across Utah. But I felt like that was just a party. All month long, I was just like hanging out at farmers markets and trying all the food.
It was so fun to go. We came down here to the Provo farmers market. It was fun just to see how different they all are too.
They really are. Like the Cache Valley market. Oh, I probably shouldn't make it seem like I have a favorite, but the Cache Valley market was really surprising, and but it shouldn't have been. It's Cache Valley. Like it's very agriculture-y up there, and it's cool to kind of be a part of that like localism too, like especially for people working in media where I think things can get very concentrated on the coast, and to be able to really to make media that's very local is really fun. It's really great to do.
So it gives you a chance to just walk around and just ask the actual growers to the crops, like what their difficulties were for the year or how they harvested.
Yeah, that's probably what I should have done. It was more of just like the farmers market videos were just kind of
like
profiles about these farmers markets. But definitely like a lot of them had people that were selling plants that you could put at the Salt Lake market and the Cache Valley market. Actually, I think most of them probably had something like that. Even the Daybreak market had some people doing that.
Were they kind of unusual plants or
no, like good for the environment? Okay. I think.
I mean
honestly, I
like
didn't really
Utah native type. Like,
I didn't really get that deep into
it,
but I would have.
I'm curious.
Yeah. But go to your local farmers market this year, and you'd be surprised. Like some up in Cache Valley, it seemed like they were selling produce, and then they were also selling some of the plants. So if you really loved the like cucumbers that they grew, because cucumbers can be kind of temperamental. I know a lot of people have a difficult time getting like not bitter.
Yeah.
Cucumbers.
And then you hear the trick of like rubbing the ends of the cucumber to make it not bitter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like you cut
give it a little massage.
You cut the ends of the cucumber off, and then you like rub and it makes all this foamy stuff. And like I don't know, someone like let's fact check. Like one of the listeners, please tell us.
Yeah.
It's him. I was going to bring him up as Foodscapes.
Yeah.
You guys know him? Have you guys seen a video with him?
Is that John Trimble?
Yes, he's right here.
Yeah.
He just joined.
Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Or maybe
I'm gonna be
he
in
joined and he's
contact
gone.
with you.
We have a delay, so he might have been like, hello, bye-bye.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I've contacted him to come be on the podcast too.
He does really cool stuff, and definitely like with Modern Gardener, we do want to get to different parts of the state other than just like, the Salt Lake Valley. And, John, I was in contact with him late in the year, so they weren't doing quite as much. So they help people put in foodscapes.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm definitely going to. I meant to send him a message, but John, watch out! I'm gonna send you a message about.
So what it is you basically remove your lawn and put in a garden. So you're using all the irrigation in there. You create raised garden beds, and so way cool. He just registered as a nonprofit.
Oh yeah,
so
right. I saw that. Cool. Yeah, that's really
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, I contacted him and he had like something wrong with his arm.
Yeah. Yep.
Dislocated or something.
Yeah.
Owie.
Yeah. Poor guy.
I don't know what he did, but he
was probably just working really hard on
turning
landscape, turning lawns into gardens.
That was a thing I was really interested in early on, was this notion of like the market gardening of urban garden centers that people are doing, where it's like they'll go to some like elderly person's house or something like that who isn't using their backyard and, you know, cultivate the entire thing and, you know, do a profit share with them to own the space or to share the space, I guess.
There's even gardeners at my community garden, like Keep It Real Vegetables, Tyler. He does that. He's like found kind of almost like empty lots. Yeah. And just, that's how he makes his living, you know? And so he's got like various gardens throughout Salt Lake City. Mm-hmm. And they're just kind of like, he just found like people who aren't using space. And
it's kind of like back farms with Green Urban Lunchbox, where they have volunteers come in and turn seniors who kind of can't manage their yard anymore. They turn their yard into a garden and they take care of it like all year long. And then they take that produce to senior centers so that they can have fresh produce there. And there's a lot of really cool organizations out there. That's what Foodscape kind of reminded me of a little bit. Back farms, but it seems like it's more for the homeowner to continue to maintain.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him directly. I've just been through like Instagram or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he seems like a really cool guy. Good concept, way to share. I think that's another thing. It's like sharing food, sharing ideas. It's just this whole community, local, everything, the whole thing about gardening, except me, where I plant my flowers and I'm like, don't tell my kids, do not pick my flowers.
Do you sell your flower? Are you like a flower farmer?
I don't produce enough. Like, it's just my yard.
Okay, gotcha.
But we do have a friend. She just contacted me like today, Samantha. Obsessive Gardening is our podcast episode of her. Okay. And she talks about greenhouse, and she ordered enough bulbs per square foot to be more than Thanksgiving Points festival. Like, just by square foot. Like, she can say, I got more per square foot than Thanksgiving Point. Like, she had almost like 3,000 tomato starts.
Whoa.
Like little buddies that she started.
Was it tomatoes? It was
were they
3,000 overall. Like,
maybe
overall
plants.
But still.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Started from seed.
Phenomenal.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So should she just sell these to like friends?
She will sell. She contacted me to see if I could like spread it out, like let her know that she wants to give these things away to people because she has so much, or
trade.
Something. I haven't talked to her. She sent me a message and I responded, and then I haven't got her. She's going through her finals right now, so
I see.
Not surprised.
On Instagram, at least, I've found tons of urban flower farmers, and I am starting to like try to figure out if this is like a new trend or is this just always been happening. And because I wasn't working on Modern Gardener, I didn't know, but it seems like there's really just tons of people out there that are doing like high density flower farming. And that's something that you know very much about?
I don't. There's a couple of people that I know that they just go overboard like with the stuff, but they're not selling it. They're just like putting in there, or they grow, because you always want to try to grow more than you need just because you want to have enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like with your greenhouse. I mean, people would freak out because they throw away pallets of flowers that they don't need. I have a friend that lives in Rose Park. She has no grass. She has her own greenhouse. It's amazing. Like, you could, her house just stands out boom, as like a beacon to like, this is what you need to do, people. And I don't even think she even irrigates. Like, all of her stuff is water wise.
Wow.
And she maintains it. It's beautiful. So, but she's awesome. I've asked her to come on the podcast too, but she's like, I don't know, I don't have a degree or anything. I'm like, you're kidding me?
A couple of questions. So do you guys do any kind of plant highlights? So specifically one particular plant. Talk about it.
No, but this is something we've thought about actually quite a bit. Well, maybe when I say we, I should say me. I've thought a lot about this. So we talked a little bit about it.
I'm like, oh, really, Mark? Tell me more.
It's definitely something that I'm interested in. Like, one of the things that kind of started me thinking about this was this idea of, you know, I did probably what half the people in Utah have done, where you like run down to the local store, hardware store or wherever, and you buy a bunch of beautiful flowers and you bring them home and they fall down, and you know, you've spent a bunch of money on it. And I started thinking about it. I was like, you know, should we do like a story on like, here are the 20 plants you should never buy, kind of a listicle sort of thing, you know, to grow in Utah? Because, you know, as a novice, I wish I had that information before I dropped $10 on a plant that's going to die.
For sure.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
not thrive very well
Yeah.
here in this climate or the soil or whatever the reasoning is. And
You get super excited. You go to the
Yeah.
store, they look so full and beautiful.
It's a trick.
Yeah, sorry. No,
Yeah.
no. I mean, I like what comes to mind is, for example, like the penstemon, and how unique that is to Utah, in particular, where we can grow more varieties of penstemon than anywhere else
That's
in
cool.
the world. And
I
so,
didn't-
if I were to think of like the closest flower that resembles, might be like a snapdragon. It's papulaceous. So, and sometimes they have these spikes with these kind of big flowers on them, or
Okay.
sometimes they're kind of low and prostrate and grow kind of, but they're, for the most part, I want to say drought tolerant. They're soil pH tolerant,
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
and
Are those like
Let
fox?
me
There's another
switch.
name for them called like foxglove.
No, foxglove is like a Old English
okay.
type.
you'll see them in the store a little bit here and there. But man, they could be highlighted.
Well,
This
yeah,
could
so
be
that
the
might be
state flower.
something that that could be an Ashley video. So it's not like super apparent for Modern Gardener, but each of us kind
Those are
of have our
beautiful.
like little areas that we can cover. And so Ashley is kind of our like plants and like how to care for your plants content. And then I'm like the garden features because I know like the least about gardening, and I feel really nervous about doing
And
anything like let me
organizational
tell you
features.
about plants. I wouldn't want to do that. And
They
then
do resemble a
Yeah.
lot of a foxglove.
yeah,
It's
they're
the
so
the
pretty.
size of their petal. They're not as big. Like foxglove will get like high,
Okay.
and these guys are like. Well, how can people find Modern Gardener?
Well, we are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. If you look up Modern Gardener, I think the only place where you'll kind of maybe have a hard time finding us if you only look up Modern Gardener is maybe on Instagram, because somebody else the clean version of that handle before we did Modern Gardener on most of the social platforms that people use, and then we also have our blog on KUED.org /Modern Gardener.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we should probably also throw out a little pitch for the PBS station. There's a really
Yeah.
great app that goes with being a member of PBS. This isn't really like a pitch, but we also have a space on there as well. So
Yeah,
if you have
you
the
can watch
PBS app,
them.
you can
Yeah.
find it.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, that was
Thanks for having
awesome.
us. It's fun.
Great to meet you.
Thanks, Brad.
All right, later.
See you, bye. All right, well, there we go. There was our episode with Modern Gardener. That one's going to be episode number 70. I want to thank Brad for coming out. I want to thank the Podlings. We love you. Thank you for listening. I want to thank Modern Gardener. You guys were amazing. Liz, Mark, and Ashley, you were fantastic. Tons of knowledge. To get the full unedited version of this episode, you can go to the Horticult Facebook group, find it under videos. We actually record these. We actually video record these when we do the episode, so you can find us interacting together in my studio. So you can go check that out. And I want to say, go check out the horticult.com page. We're on Instagram at the Horticult. We love you. Peace out. Be good to each other. And plant on, Babylon.